What are some funny fake facts to tell people? There are ways to determine a female singer's favorite Disney movie or favorite princess. Quantitative examination of phonic data could be mapped against profiles similarly made for each film and character. The subjects of the study were asked their current favorite Disney film, favorites throughout childhood, which they watched the most at what age, etc. Family members were also interviewed to corroborate information. Subjects sang several pieces of their choosing as well as several they had received earlier, several they had received a recording of earlier than day and several they had received lyrics for that day and would perform a cappella. If the favorite data was correct, the test matched up 92%. The musician linguist scholars were able to do it by ear and get favorites for both movie and major character around 74% and 89% with 2 guesses. They claim that any professional musician with a good ear or formal training could easily learn. Lizards always run west when scared. That's why they find more dinosaur fossils in the western US than the eastern US. They were all scared of the meteor and ran that way. They said lizards. Dinosaurs were not lizards. The lizards ran west, the dinosaurs ran from the lizards. Dinosaur literally means fearfully great lizard. Sure, but phylogenetically they are not. If I'm remembering right, lizards are part of crown group Lepidosauria and dinosaurs are members of Archosauria. Both descend from the group Sauria, but even though saur means lizard in English, scientifically they are not. TLDR Big Nerdy. You eat 8 spiders a year in your sleep. Spiders aren't crawling into your nasty mouth at night, unless you're a dead corpse that's been long cold, and they have a reason to venture into your cave of maggots. It's just funny, because I don't know how that ever became a thing. People swallowing spiders at night. People thought spiders were crawling down their throats at night. That's called schizophrenia, or maybe it stemmed from there might have been microscopic eggs in something people eat, but there definitely aren't spiders just crawling in your mouth at night. Sleep tight. I seem to remember reading that this fact was started literally as a prank to show how people believe BS if they read it on the internet. Pronunciations in dictionaries did not exist until 1974. As a result, most words were said wrong, such as almost 96% of the population could not pronounce the word squirrel, and so most people called them fluffy rats. Peter took offense to this, and in April of 1974 Peter marched onto Springfield, Massachusetts, home of Merriam-Webster, to force Merriam-Webster to add pronunciations in dictionaries. The good thing is that Merriam-Webster has a sense of humor and gave Peter the pronunciation Peter instead of Petter. That Shrek is based off of an Old Norse mythical creature that would eat children. Ogres are part of Norse mythology, so that's not technically untrue. But did they hang out with donkeys and listen to Smash Mouth? No, they hung out with the real Eddie Murphy and listened to Smash Mouth. Does that mean there's a chance that Shrek will appear in a future Thor movie? Well, that's technically true, although child-eating giants aren't limited to Norse myths. If you can touch your nose with your tongue, that means that your tongue is longer than average, and is actually long enough to allow you to lick your elbow. Watch. I can lick my elbow, but that's because I can dislocate my shoulder, not because of my tongue length. However, as only about 10% of the population can touch their tongue with their nose, very few people can challenge me on that fact, and I mean, why would they? I just demonstrated it to them. Even if you can't do it, it sounds like it would be true though. The word sinus was used in Latin to describe how a snake moves forward. Illustrate with your hand to prove the point. Speaking of Latin, we have Latin letters and Arabic numerals, but did you know that punctuation, like comma, period, etc., was invented by the Greek? Tourette's syndrome is one of the few diseases that outlives the host. It is not uncommon to see a deceased twitch or sometimes even cuss up to several hours after death. The effect wears off as rigor mortis sets in. My father-in-law had convinced his first wife that the cows they saw standing on hills while driving home were special bred cows for our area. One set of legs was shorter than the other to accommodate the hill. He thought she was in on the joke until she started telling people like it was common knowledge. My dad told me that about mountain goats. He said that the two populations couldn't interbreed because they'd just 69 each other. I convinced my GF that the moon is always full at high altitudes. She believed me for a lot longer than she should have. I also told my now 17 years old niece that she had a tail that we amputated when she was born. Said that the lump would wiggle when she was happy and that there's scar tissue on her coccyx from the procedure. She's finally skeptical because we all laugh when we talk about it. Studies have shown that if you say, studies have shown at the beginning of your facts, people are 83% more likely to blindly believe you. A 1965 study in the Journal of Statistics also concluded that approximately 73% of statistics are completely made up. I don't know who it was, but someone said don't trust in statistics, you didn't fake yourself. Rats are so ubiquitous that almost every building contains some. Those random house settling sounds you hear isn't really the house settling, it is the rats. House settling sounds is just what some people tell themselves so as to not go crazy thinking about rats. I would like to thank you for the subject of my next nightmare. They were getting a little repetitive. The original comic book Superman could leap tall buildings in a single bound, but then he had to come right back down to earth. It wasn't until the 1940s, when animators for a new animated series decided it would be too difficult to routinely draw him bending his knees, that it was decided that Superman could take off into the air. Putting pledge on wood floors is the easiest way to keep sock prints from building up. I'm having flashbacks of a poor choice I made when I was 11. Someone once told me that if I put pan cooking spray on my flip-flops, they would stop squeaking. Carrot 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 THEY. I'll get on Xbox and play with my cousin who loves Fortnite, and I always say, have you seen the new Fortnite movie trailer yet? He freaks out every time I say it. With the movies that are slated to be coming out, I honestly feel it won't be long before this stops being a fake fact. If your hand is as big as your face, it means you're very intelligent. The trick is, when they try you then push their hand into their face, then you can laugh at it. When I was growing up it was, if your hand is bigger than your face you have cancer. Your version is more humiliating and less likely to cause offense. In Philadelphia in the 1920s there was an actual masked superhero who helped fight crime that called himself the Donkey. News stories about him were the inspiration for Superman and Batman. He retired after 2 years of crime fighting, after being shot twice in the buttocks. The Notre Dame fire was caused by outdated electrical wiring that dated back to the cathedral's initial construction. To be fair, the internet was in its infancy back then. Because fire had recently been invented, its Wikipedia page had yet to be created. President stands for powerful resident. This is a really good one. Definitely has the right vibe. What about principal resident? Sounds a little more official, no? I already hate the other false etymologies flying around. Heads or tails is not 50-50. Due to the engraving of the tails side, it makes more mass on that side, making it 50-56. It would be 44-56, otherwise the numbers don't add up right. Up until a few years ago Ireland only had 6-day weeks. We still had 365 days a year, but more than 52 weeks per year. Saturday was officially added in 2003 shortly after the US invaded Iraq. If you flash your lights when stopped at a red light, you can accelerate it turning green. HID projector and LED headlights use smart technology to detect when oncoming traffic is flashing their high beams and will automatically dim. Changing Reddit comments so the reply make no sense can actually cure depression. Op said funny, not life ruining. And now you'll see what I've done. I dunno, reply still kind of works. I was talking with a friend about how much I love moon pies, and he said, did you know that all moon pies were created before World War II and have been stockpiled in warehouses since then? I believed him for a minute. When I was traveling by train one woman told me such a fact. If you take some chicken eggs and lay them around the phone, call this phone and the eggs will be cooked by radiation. Don't try it at home. That the earth is flat and Australia. That the people of Australia are paid actors from NASA and they get paid today. That it is real and they were born there. Flat earthers believe all of this. The Titanic crashed into the Ford Theatre on April 14, 1865. The captain, John F. Kennedy, was daydreaming. His brain wasn't really with him at the moment. You can get eye cancer by reading on your cell phone during the night. If this was true, Reddit would be in trouble. Definitely. Also, a lot of other social medias. Brownish red chickens lay brown eggs. White chickens lay white eggs. The bigger the hen, the larger the size of the egg. I have chickens, and hear this too often to laugh. Coffee is called a cup of joe, because Joe DiMaggio did ads for. No, it's from Russian coffee rations in WW2 that had a picture of Stalin on them. Moths aren't attracted to the light. They're attracted to the darkness. When they fly towards a light they're trying to get behind it, because that's the darkest place to be. 69% of facts are made up on the spot. What I find incredible is sometimes that number can be as high as 83%. How do you feel about the recent news regarding France requesting that the US return the Statue of Liberty due to Trump dishonoring its symbolism? Jax Films has done 4 videos where he turns fake facts into a fun shareable image. Just search Jax Films fake facts on YouTube. Turning your computer off and on again never works. Then watch in morbid delight as your business gets the influx of customers it needs. Giraffe necks are getting shorter. Since giraffes don't need to reach as high for food, they have lost the evolutionary trait of long necks. At any state border, if you examine the ground closely and no roads are covering it, you will see the faint line where the states meet. If you tilt your head back, open your mouth, and pretend you're shaking salt from a salt shaker onto your tongue, you will taste the salt. A 4-pronged fork is called a fork because it has 4 prongs. So, the 3-pronged version is actually called a threek. The dislike button on YouTube is meant for Jamaican people, so they can say dislike, and thus respecting their culture. Go in a store, ask which date it is, and then run away and say something like it worked, now I can avoid the tragedy. Diamond isn't the hardest substance. Ultra hard nanotwinned cubic baron nitride is the hardest substance. I told my dad, whose name is George, that GMAIL stands for George Mail, and he tells people this